this week, I'd like to ask the question, why? Why multi-site? Why is that the option? And just to kind of launch into this, I did some dusting off of some very old church records. Actually, it was more searching our server, but I found some figures that I thought were really interesting. In the year 2000, which was right at the turn of the century, we averaged on a weekly basis 494 people, and that included children. Okay, that was the entire chapel. We were in a small building off of Columbus Avenue, and we were packed to the gills. All right, that was really full, and that kind of precipitated this whole building process on this site. All right, but I remember in some of those thinking and planning phases, somebody did a chart, a kind of a graph projection of attendance. If the chapels kept on growing about 8% a year, which is pretty healthy, how many people we would have if we were 494 then, how many people we would have in 2010. And the number that was projected out was just over 1,000 people, 1,066, all right? And we were all sitting there in the year 2000 going, wow, to have a church of over 1,000 people, wow, okay? I love the fact that sometimes God comes in and just changes those plans. We were a year into this building when we surpassed that number. The first year we were in this building, we had 1,139 people. Our real number for the year 2010 was 1,712 average weekly, and in the first 2 months of this year, we're averaging 1,826 a weekend. That's amazing. That just shows me that God is still really kind of blessing what's going on here and entrusting a lot of people to join this family to take their next steps in their spiritual journey. But one of the things that I was reflecting on, the reason why I gave all those numbers, was because we're feeling much the same way in 2011 here that we were feeling in the year 2000. We were feeling full. And you brought up this 80% rule. What is that 80% rule? How would you describe that?
The 80% rule is something that's used in restaurants and theaters, other places where people come to gather like this, that when a building or even a parking lot or something like that is 80% full, it appears and it feels full. It doesn't feel like there's much room. Even though there is technically some room, it doesn't look that way or feel that way. And just for instance, today I know our attendance is down a little bit because of the weather. We're probably 65% full in the room today. Just imagine another 150 people in here and we'd be 80% full, which we normally are at this service, and then over that at our 11 o'clock service. And people come in, they look around, and it appears as if there isn't a place to sit down. Technically, there are some here and there. There might even be 50 to 100 of those. You just can't see them. It feels full. And that becomes a barrier. People then look and they say the place is full, and they might not come in. They might leave. And part of that then is the reason when we built this building, immediately there was room to expand and people could invite friends and they could come in and feel there was room. And that's part of the reason I believe why growth happened rather dramatically after we built this building.
So the 80% rule is 80% full at optimum service times.
Right.
When we were there in the year 2000, the conventional wisdom of that day is when you got to that size, you needed to either expand or build on or build new or whatever. We're at that stage again. Why is multi-site a better option than adding on or building on to this building?
And that's one of the questions we've really wrestled with over the last couple of years. We've been 80% full here really for the last 3 or 4 years. And we've looked at that. Adding on is, and we've looked at the options. In fact, when we built this building, there was already a plan in place to have the land available and an idea of how we could add on to this building. But we ran into a couple of things, especially in a bad economy, to say, to double the size of this building would probably cost us in the area of another $10 million. And, that's a lot of money, and especially in this economy. That's a lot of our resources that could be used for other kinds of things. Another option is we just put up a no vacancy sign, which we really don't feel is what we're called to do. I don't read that anywhere in Scripture. And so what's another option? And so we began to look at it, but there's a bigger reason behind the fact that it isn't just adding onto this building. It's as we have gone out, and the chapel has grown because people have walked across the room. That's a term we've used to say walking across the room is leaving your circle of comfort, leaving those people that you know well and just being with them, and actually going out and letting other people know about what matters to you, your relationship with Christ, and your family, your friends, your coworkers. And God has blessed that. You have done that, and people have come. But as the reach of our circle expands, and we want people to come and to be a part of this community, to explore their relationship with Christ, to begin a relationship with Christ, to grow in that relationship with Christ, they begin to find as that circle widens that it gets more and more difficult. There are several barriers. One is a drive time barrier. Again, an economic thing as well as a time thing. To come here to this place, to be in this community, to do that will require the costs of travel. As gas prices go up, that becomes more and more difficult. So we're asking people to drive further to come here, and that becomes a drive time barrier. There's the physical barrier. In weather like this, driving further on treacherous roads is more difficult. And then there's the home team barrier. To leave communities where you do your shopping, where your kids go to school, people that you know, to drive 20, 25, 30 minutes to come to a church, you're leaving your community, as it were, and coming into another community, and that can be a barrier. All of those then make it the reality that people who come from further are able to be less committed to the community here, to being a part of growing and helping each other grow, and that's a serious barrier. And that's one of the reasons then that multi-site really becomes a wonderful way to do it, because instead of asking other people to cross those bridges, to build those bridges and cross the barriers to come here, we build the bridges and we cross the barriers to come to them. And that's the beauty of multi-site.
Wow, that's a good way of putting it. So we can stay missional and visionary in our church and not just reactionary. You know, this is one of those things, and we're going to keep taking these segments in the service for several weeks here, just because this is more than just a leadership decision. We really want to kind of get all of our hearts, all 1,829 hearts on a weekend, around this, and really seeking God together what the next steps for the chapel are. There's a couple of things, and we talked about these last week, but we would love to hear your comments. Thank you for the emails we've already gotten. But you can email either Bill or myself at the chapel here, and we'll collaborate, either respond to you by email or kind of take your comments and interweave them into the next heart segment of the service here. The other thing is that the Elder Board has put together a special evening in just 2 weeks, on March 18th, which is a Friday night, from 7 to 9:30, we'll have a family time here in this room, and we're inviting as many people as can come. I understand, you know, a Friday night that, you know, maybe only just one of a family could come, but anybody that can make it would be welcome. And this is a time where we can talk and we could kind of, you know, bounce ideas around. We have a multi-site specialist coming in, flying in for that weekend, to be with us, to kind of lead us through some of these big issues in changing our thinking from a mono-site church to a multi-site church. But lastly, we just want to invite you to continue, to begin and to continue praying. This is really something we want every one of us to kind of seek out God, because we need to be in this together. Deal? All right, Pastor Dave, bless you.